It is the most photographed castle on Earth, tens of millions of pictures every single year, and the man who drew it died with almost no one knowing his name. So let me ask you something. Who actually designed Disney's castle? The year is 1953. Walt Disney has a dream that no one will take seriously, a park unlike anything the world has seen. And on a Saturday, he picks up the phone and calls an artist named Herb Ryman. As the story is remembered, Walt said, "Herbie, this is my dream, and you are the only one who can do it. Bankers do not have imagination," he said. "You have to show them exactly what they are going to get." And Herb's answer was, "No, you had better forget it. It will embarrass us both." You see, Walt's brother Roy was leaving for New York on Monday to convince the money men to back the park, and Walt had nothing to show them, not a blueprint, not a single drawing. So Walt asked one quiet question, "Will you do it, if I stay here with you?" And Herb said yes. For the next 42 hours they did not stop. Walt talked, walking through his park in his mind, and Herb drew, in carbon pencil, on a single sheet of vellum, the room filled with crumpled paper and cigarette smoke. By the end, Walt looked bedraggled, and Herb was bone-weary. 2 days later, on that table lay the first picture of Disneyland that ever existed. Herb labeled it himself. Disneyland, a schematic aerial view, approximately 45 acres within the railroad tracks. Roy carried that drawing to New York, and he used it to sell hard-nosed money men on a park that did not exist yet. The sketch did what no words could. It let them see it, and here is something to sit with. Herb Ryman was not even a Disney employee when Walt called that Saturday. And that original map, decades later, it sold at auction for $708,000. So who was he, the man Walt called when everything was on the line? Herb Ryman was no company sketch artist. He was a master. Before Disney, he worked as a Hollywood art director at MGM and 20th Century Fox on pictures like David Copperfield and Mutiny on the Bounty. He was a fine painter, too, collected by Cecil B. DeMille and the Barrymores. He painted the California coast and the circus, and he traveled the world with a sketchbook. In 1963, they made him president of the California Art Club, the kind of artist other artists studied. Decades later, an Imagineer named Eddie Soto, who ran the studio's own concept design team, said the castles were something Herb truly took pride in. Walt knew exactly whose door to knock on. But the drawing that sold Disneyland was only Herb's first gift to it, because Walt asked him to design the castle, too. For Disneyland, Walt wanted something like the great Neuschwanstein in Bavaria. Herb argued. "Do not copy it," he said, and then he simply turned the model around, so the tallest towers faced down Main Street toward you. Walt looked at it and said, "I like that a lot better." Years later, for Walt Disney World, Herb designed the one most of us picture when we close our eyes. Cinderella Castle, 27 towers, 13 gargoyles, more than 100 feet taller than the castle he had designed for Disneyland years before, and he hid a secret inside it. Look closely sometime. The stones near the bottom are large, and as your eye climbs, the stones and the windows grow smaller and smaller. Even the street rises toward it. It is a trick called forced perspective, and it fools you into seeing something far taller than it truly is. It is not a copy of any real castle. It is a little of all of them, gathered into one dream that exists nowhere on Earth but there. And castles were only part of it. Main Street USA carries his hand, and so does New Orleans Square. Decades later, well into his 70s, he sketched concept art for Epcot Center and for Tokyo Disneyland, parks he helped imagine but would only ever see finished in his mind. Herb Ryman drew the picture that sold Disneyland, and then he gave the parks the crown they are still known by. Late in his life, on an old Disney television special, he told this very story himself, in his own voice. And he kept working, right to the end. He died in 1989, with a pencil still moving, sketching ideas for a Disney park in Paris he would never see open. 1 year later, Disney finally made him a legend. His sister, Lucille, founded a school in his name. It still teaches young artists for free to this day. The most photographed skyline on Earth. And now you know the hand behind it. His name was Ryman, because every great kingdom starts with a single sketch.